The biting wind whipped through the alley, chilling Eddie to the bone. He huddled deeper into his meagre blanket, a barrier against the cold that did little to ease the ache in his heart. Betrayal etched itself onto his soul. The memory of his own flesh and blood, his uncle, abandoning him on these unforgiving streets, was a fresh wound. He was alone. Eddie clutched the worn photo of his parents, their smiling faces a painful reminder of a happier time. A time before the accident. A time before he was left at the mercy of his uncle, a man who had squandered the inheritance meant for Eddie's future. He felt tears prick at his eyes, but he quickly blinked them away. Crying wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't bring back his parents or erase the sting of his uncle's betrayal. The city noises grated on his nerves. The rumble of traffic, the distant sirens, the shouts of people passing by, oblivious to his plight. Each sound amplified his loneliness, reminding him that he was invisible, another forgotten face in the urban sprawl. Despair threatened to consume him, but he clung to a sliver of hope. He had to survive. He had to find a way out of this darkness. He just had to find a way. Days bled into nights, each one a struggle for survival. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, a constant companion. He spent his days scavenging for scraps, his pride swallowed with each bite of discarded food. He loathed this existence, this constant fight for the bare necessities. The streets were a cruel master, stripping him of his dignity, his hope, his very humanity. He encountered others like him, lost souls adrift in a sea of indifference. Some were kind, sharing what little they had. Others were hardened, their eyes reflecting the brutality of their circumstances. He learned to trust his instinct, to discern between genuine offers of help and potential danger. The streets were a harsh teacher, but they were teaching him to survive. Each night he sought shelter wherever he could find it. Doorways, alleys, abandoned buildings. The fear was a constant companion, the fear of the unknown, the fear of violence, the fear of disappearing without a trace. Just another forgotten soul swallowed by the city. Sleep offered little respite, his dreams haunted by fragmented memories of his past, of his parents, of a life that seemed impossibly distant. He was losing himself. The rain was relentless, a cold, heavy downpour that soaked Eddie to the core. He shivered uncontrollably, his body weak from hunger and exhaustion. He had been searching for food all day, but the streets were empty. The usual sources of discarded meals nowhere to be found. He collapsed in a doorway, his body racked with chills. He was losing hope. This was it, he thought, the end. "You all right, son?" A gruff voice startled Eddie. He looked up, his vision blurred. A man, his face weathered with age and concern, stood before him. He held out a hand, his eyes filled with a kindness that Eddie hadn't seen in what felt like a lifetime. Eddie hesitated, suspicion warring with desperation. He had learned to be wary of strangers, their intentions often as murky as the alleyways he called home. But something in the man's eyes, a genuineness that pierced through Eddie's defences, made him reach out and grasp the offered hand. The man pulled him to his feet, his grip surprisingly strong. "Come on, son," he said, his voice firm yet gentle. "Let's get you out of this weather." He led Eddie down the street, his presence a beacon of warmth in the cold, unforgiving rain. For the first time in a long time, Eddie felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. The warmth of the hospital room enveloped Eddie, a stark contrast to the biting cold he had just escaped. He lay in the bed, his body aching, his mind still reeling from the encounter with the old man. The man who introduced himself as Samuel had brought him to the hospital, insisting that he receive medical attention. Samuel's presence was a constant, his gruff exterior hiding a heart that seemed to hold an endless well of compassion. He brought Eddie food, warm clothes, and most importantly, conversation. He spoke of his life, his family, his late wife, who had dedicated her life to helping those in need. Eddie listened, his initial distrust slowly giving way to a cautious curiosity. He was wary of opening himself up, of allowing himself to hope. Hope had a way of leading to disappointment, and he had tasted enough disappointment to last a lifetime. He built walls around his heart, protecting himself from further pain. He answered Samuel's questions with monosyllables, deflecting any attempts to delve deeper into his past. He wasn't ready to share the burden of his story, the weight of his betrayal, the depth of his despair. But even as he erected these barriers, he couldn't help but be drawn to Samuel's warmth, his unwavering kindness. Could he dare to trust again? Section 5. A Ray of Hope. Days turned into weeks, and Eddie's health slowly began to return. The colour returned to his cheeks, his eyes regained their sparkle, and the haunted look that had become a permanent fixture on his face began to fade. Samuel was a constant presence, visiting every day, bringing with him a warmth that extended beyond the gifts he showered upon Eddie. One afternoon a woman entered the room, her smile as bright as the sunshine streaming through the window. She introduced herself as Amelia, Samuel's niece. Her eyes, as blue as the summer sky, held a warmth that mirrored her uncle's. Amelia was a breath of fresh air, her laughter infectious, her spirit indomitable. She spoke of her work with the Global Space Force, a multinational organization dedicated to exploring the cosmos and ensuring peace throughout the solar system. She spoke with passion, her voice filled with excitement as she described the challenges and rewards of her work. She saw something in Eddie, a spark that hadn't been extinguished despite the hardships he had endured. She saw potential, a strength that lay dormant beneath the surface, and she saw an opportunity, a chance for him to escape the streets and forge a new path for himself. "We're always looking for bright, capable individuals," she said, her gaze steady. "The Space Force offers training, education, and a chance to make a real difference." Section 6. A Life Beyond Earth. Eddie listened, his mind struggling to grasp the concept. Space Force? It seemed like something out of a science fiction novel, a distant dream that had no place in his reality. He had spent his life navigating the harsh streets of Earth. His world shrunk to the size of his next meal, his next shelter. The vastness of space, the possibility of a life beyond his current circumstances, was almost incomprehensible. Amelia sensed his hesitation. "It's a chance to start over, Eddie," she said gently. "To learn new skills, to challenge yourself, to be a part of something bigger than yourself." She painted a picture of a future filled with purpose and possibility, a future where he could use his intelligence and resilience to contribute to something meaningful, a future where he could escape the shadows of his past and step into the light of a new tomorrow. The idea, as foreign as it was, began to take root in his mind. Section 7. The Weight of Choice. The weight of the decision pressed down on Eddie. On one hand, he craved the security and stability that the Space Force offered. The chance to learn, to grow, to belong to something larger than himself was a powerful lure. He yearned for a sense of purpose, a chance to escape the cycle of poverty and despair that had trapped him for so long. But fear whispered its insidious doubts. Could he trust these people, these strangers who had shown him such unexpected kindness? Was he capable of adapting to a life so different from anything he had ever known? The thought of leaving Earth, of venturing into the unknown depths of space, filled him with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. He spent sleepless nights wrestling with his emotions, weighing the potential rewards against the risks. He confided in Samuel, pouring out his hopes and fears. The old man listened patiently, his gaze filled with understanding. "The choice is yours, Eddie," Samuel said, his voice gruff yet reassuring. "But know this, whatever you decide, you have the strength within you to face it." His words resonated with Eddie, bolstering his resolve. Section 8. Embracing the Stars. In the end, the decision came down to a simple but profound realization. He was tired of being afraid. He was tired of running from his past, of allowing fear to dictate his future. He yearned for a life filled with purpose, a life where he could make a difference. He looked at Samuel and Amelia, their faces etched with concern and hope, and he knew that he had found something special, something he had thought was lost to him forever. Family. They had shown him kindness without expecting anything in return, had offered him a chance at a new beginning. He took a deep breath, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement, and said, "I'll do it. I'll join the Space Force." The words felt heavy yet liberating, a declaration of independence from the shadows of his past. A smile spread across Amelia's face, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Samuel clapped him on the shoulder, his grip firm, his approval evident. In that moment, Eddie knew that he had made the right decision. He was embracing the unknown, stepping into a future filled with challenges and possibilities. He was no longer the lost boy who had wandered the streets, invisible and forgotten. Section 9. A Future Forged in Courage. The following months were a blur of activity. Eddie threw himself into the rigorous training program, his body and mind pushed to their limits. He excelled in his classes, his intelligence and resilience shining through. He learned about astrophysics, spacecraft engineering, and the complexities of interstellar navigation. He formed bonds with his fellow recruits, a diverse group of individuals from all walks of life, each with their own stories of hardship and resilience. They trained together, supported each other, and celebrated their victories. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of belonging, of camaraderie. As he stood on the launch pad, gazing up at the towering spacecraft that would carry him beyond the bounds of Earth, he couldn't help but feel a surge of gratitude for the second chance he had been given. He thought of his parents, their faces etched in his memory, and he knew that they would be proud of the man he had become. He took one last look at Earth, its blue and green hues a vibrant reminder of the life he was leaving behind, and then he turned his gaze towards the stars. The unknown awaited, filled with challenges and wonders yet to be discovered. Eddie smiled. He was ready. He was home.